21 reasons why the Tokyo International Pen Show, otherwise known as TIPS, is the greatest pen show on earth. For a more thorough review of the Tokyo International Pen Show, please check out my video from last year. It's linked in the upper right-hand corner. It's held in Tokyo, and I could probably just stop the video now since it's such a great reason. This is the city of scramble crossings with almost 14 million residents, and yet if you lose your wallet, you're more than likely to get it back with everything inside of it intact. Here in Tokyo, you can go to a restaurant where your food is brought to you by a robot that's remotely controlled by a homebound handicapped waiter. You make your order with the remote waiter through another robot pictured here. Tokyo has a crazy, far-reaching cityscape with amazing architecture and for some reason a lot of outdoor escalators. So come to TIPS because you get to come to Tokyo. You can check out some pretty innovative stuff. This vendor is Shokido. It's home of the ink book. Here you can see the one on the right is for Tamiya sample bottles, and the one on the left is for Tono and Limbs. You can put the bottles in there, close it up, and shelve it like you would a book. Here's some books for the Iroshizuku small bottles and the Sailor Ink Studio inks, and platinum mixable inks. And he has these little charms to put on his own specialty bottles of ink. And he even has boxes that will hold ink swatch cards that are the size of business cards. Pierre Cardin started selling inks here in Japan last year, though they are based out of Hong Kong. I saw them for the first time at the Manila Pen Show, and I'll link that in the upper right-hand corner. They sell beautiful inks, but they also sell this really strange-looking contraption. And basically what it is kind of an inkwell for two inks at the same time, and also has two glass pens that you can use with it. They come with several pipettes to transfer ink into these inkwells, but pipettes are for sissies. Here I am trying to pour in Bungukan Kobayashi's Clematis ink, and it was a bit of a mess. So I got smart and put the other ink, which was the show ink, into a beaker and then just poured it in and had it go in that way, and it worked out really well. You basically tilt the double inkwell in the direction of which ink you want to use, the outer inkwell or the inner one. This one I'm using the outer inkwell for the show ink and filling up that little area there. And then you set it up in its holder, and then you could use the little mini glass pens that are included with it, or your own glass pen or dip pen to use the ink. Lauritz is a company that specializes in knurled steel items for both luxury cars and aircraft parts. They brought metal writing instruments to include this really interesting looking fountain pen that I think was made from steel and aluminum. But the interesting thing is that design you see on the pen is their specialty, the knurled metal. So there are no threads on the body for the cap. The whole body is threads. So you can unscrew the cap and then screw it back to post on the back end. The building is large, modern, and beautiful with plenty of restrooms and seating areas. And then the venue itself is large and is equipped with the most modern electrical connections and stuff. And then here's a list of all the different restaurants that are in the building, to include the Blue Bottle Coffee place, which I went to a lot, and see like many Japanese restaurants. And as you can see from the outside, the first 3 floors have trees on the balconies, and there's plenty of like little tables and things that you can either take your snack or your coffee or just sit outside and check out your purchases from the show. So it's just a really convenient and beautiful area to hold a pen show. And remember Tokyo's obsession with robots? Well, they have some sort of like robot security guy, and he runs around making beeping noises, and he kind of found me and followed me for a bit, so I must have looked suspicious. Interesting and independent pen makers attend this show, and they're a little bit different than in the West. Tuduria makes some beautiful ebonite, wood, and acrylic pens, but not only do they come with Bach nibs, they also can come with pilot nibs. Ohashido has completely handmade pens of ebonite, and he even makes the nibs. Tetsubo makes these interesting steampunk-looking brass pens. And who's really hot right now is Furuta, a retired Special Forces guy that makes ebonite and urushi pens to include the case and the nib. He currently studies under Kubo. Here's a picture of him with Kubo, and I'll include his information in the show notes. And a pen maker many of us know in the West is Sean Design, and he brought his Peak pen. It's made out of some sort of engineered plastic that's supposed to be virtually indestructible, so we'll see. I don't know why I always seem to be rolling pens off of tables. But as advertised, it seems like it's pretty rugged, though it doesn't seem to bounce around as much as my Kasama Una. The venue is on the famous Yurikamome Monorail line, and that goes around Tokyo Bay across the Rainbow Bridge and out to Odaiba and other famous attractions. It's really a lot of fun to kind of take out and look around at Tokyo Bay. Since there were a lot of stationery there and like stamps and tapes, you could buy things at any price range. For instance, Anitoru was there, and they're the famous ones for having the little crab pen holders. And these little cats and their new little shrimp were both about $4. And there was a guy there named Gani Calligraphy, and he would make these pictures by writing his calligraphy darker and lighter, and then he turned them into postcards on little file folders, and those were about $5. Here you can see Shakespeare, and then he has like "to be" or "not to be" written across his mouth. The Hotel Tavernos, which is literally a pedestrian bridge away from the venue, it has very small rooms, but they ran a discount for both vendors and attendees, and it was about like $40, which included a light breakfast, which is a phenomenal deal here in Tokyo. So we're supposed to hopefully get that discount again next year. Like just about every other show in Japan, there was just lots of paper. Yamamoto Paper was there with their memo box, and you choose between these different grayscale boxes, and then you could choose from all these different kinds of paper. It was really interesting to see people test out all the different paper to put in their memo box. But of course, I made sure I picked up some of this Takasago Premium Bank paper, which is one of my favorite papers. Kobaha was there with their Grafilo paper. Tabo Stationery was there with Ginkgo Yoshi paper. And Wrap Palette was there with all their different kinds of blocked paper. And there was somebody new called New Gray, and basically their paper was gray color. They felt like there needed to be more of a gray kind of color of paper besides just cream and white. In keeping with the virus mitigation procedures, the tickets were sold online ahead of time so they could control the number of people at the venue. Everyone needed to wear a mask, and then they would bring their ticket in to be read off their phone on a QR code. All the volunteers went to several meetings in preparation for the show. And since some attendees were there 3 or 4 hours before the show started, we had to kind of line them up outside the venue itself. We had them search for their QR code on their phone, and here's a sign that I used to show where the end of the line was. So as the line got kind of windy around the outside of the venue, people knew where to line up. And then about 30 minutes to an hour before the show opened, we started processing people through the check-in. They had to go through a hand sanitizer and temperature checker. And then they showed their QR code ticket to a volunteer, and then we lined them all up, all ready processed to be ready to go into the show. So that at 1 o'clock when the show started, the attendees could go straight to the booth they wanted to go to. We had a great show ink, and it was associated with the Penguin Park Picnic Party, which was the theme of the show itself. And the ink was called On the Iceberg Field. It was mainly these penguins having a little picnic on a glacier or something. It was a kind of complex turquoisey blue. And here you can see it's really got some pretty colors mixed in from the paper towel cleanup. And there were just gobs of ink. I'm not going to name them all off, but here's a few examples. Pierre Cardin brought their beautiful city inks, both in box sets and mini bottles. Ishimaru Bunkodo brought their specialty inks and their large assortment of color bar inks. Ginza 6's Tsutaya brought their specialty inks. Yotsuba was there with their glittery inks. Interact brought their inks from Taiwan along with their SKB inks. And it was wild, all the Inkanuma ladies were going crazy over the Ferris wheel press inks. So I guess you always want what you don't have. The organizers were Endo-san from Eboya, and Kaoru Yamagishi-san from Bungu Box, and Bruce Iman from Think on Paper. However, Bruce couldn't make it out because of our quarantine right now. Everybody knows Eboya because of their famous Nikko ebonite, but the really nice thing is they really keep their ebonite super shiny, and that's what makes it look so nice. It's really hard to see other pens that are this shiny. And this matcha green is a really unusual ebonite. Bungu Box had their famous Ink Tells More bottled ink, and their eye-catching new line of pigment inks. And Bungu Box had this hot-selling, very glittery pen called the Supernova. And here's Endo-san and Yamagishi-san to say welcome to the pen show.
Welcome to Tokyo Pen Show.
Next year!
Next year!
There were gobs of glass pens, and I'm only going to mention a few. Made in Ryogoku brought some simple glass pens with just some beaded roll stops on them. The famous Kawanishi Glass brought some interesting glass pens that had opals in the section. You can see them coming up right here. Lyon was there with some glass pens. Suriru brought their colorful glass pens. And Kemi's Labo brought a bunch of glass pens. If you attended the first day of the show, which was the special day, you got a free Tokyo International Pen Show 2021 branded pen. The really exciting thing about this is that it had a clear feed and a stub nib, which is really unusual in Japan. It's not as big here as it is in other places, so it's showing some growing acceptance for like stub nibs here in Japan. Tips is gaining such traction that two very prestigious stores had booths, Shosai-kan and Ginza 6 Tsutaya. Both of them are the kind of places that'll really hurt your wallet when you shop there. Here's the ladies at the Ginza 6 Tsutaya booth welcome you to the pen show.
Welcome to Tokyo Pen Show.
There are always all kinds of cool pen accessories at Tips, but I'll mention two. Toyooka Craft comes every year, and this year their felt on the inside of their trays and pen cases were a lot more varied. You could choose a lot more different colors. Their stuff is just so well made and so useful. I have like 5 different pen boxes from them. It looked like they had a lot more different colors of stain for the wood. Here's a light colored one with a beautiful burgundy and green felt lining. And Luno made these little pen cases that kind of look like snap change purses. I've never seen so many volunteers at a pen show before. We were all wearing the kind of Home Depot orange apron so you could identify us easily. Many were a bit camera shy, so I've got their faces blurred out and I don't have a lot of video of them. There's always going to be somebody amongst the volunteers that can speak English, so that won't really be a problem for you coming to Tips. Many of the volunteers have never used fountain pens before. They thought it would just be fun. But then I have one friend who's such a pen freak that she bought 3 platinum Kurodoses so she could have this multicolored platinum Kurodos. Nakamura-san and team leader Taka-san are here to welcome you to the show.
みんな東京ペンションへようこそ
Hi everyone, I'm Taka, working as a volunteer leader. We are looking forward to seeing you in the International Pen Show of Tokyo next year. We hope you will enjoy your stay and shopping. Thank you. Bye.
Here we are bowing out at the end of our shift and getting our pep talk and encouragement from the leaders.
では最後に皆さん今日一日ご苦労様でした
Compared to Western shows, there were a boatload of young people. I mean, like middle school and high school age, and maybe college age kids. Here you can see this booth is kind of cordoned off with some string, and it's for crowd control. This is part of the reason there were so many young men there at the show. Apparently some YouTuber has recommended these mechanical pencils that are made from wood. And so these pencils are really coveted by young people, and that's who many of the people that were waiting in line for several hours to get to the show early. This video was taken just a little bit before we opened on the first day. But Saturday, on the second day, in the afternoon session, we had a bunch of young people because it was just after school. Most Japanese kids go to school on Saturday for a half a day, so you saw a lot of kids walking around at the pen show with their uniforms on. They had just come back from school. A lot of the boys were shopping at this Kobo Setsu, but then there were also some young ladies too that were shopping for like washi tape and stationery items. But the interesting thing is that they did that kind of shopping, but then they kind of looked around at fountain pens too, which was pretty exciting. I would say on Saturday about 5 to 10% of the people there at the pen show were under the age of 20. I'm not a kids channel, so I can't film like a lot of kids' faces and stuff. But with masks on, here you can see at Furuta's table, some girls are testing out his pens. One of the earlier criticisms of the Tokyo International Pen Show is that it was all like new pens and stationery and things like that. There really wasn't a real big selection of vintage pens before, but this show, it changed. Komehyo is like a used goods store, and they brought their fountain pens to the show. It seemed like both the prices and their selection was better at the show than they typically have at their department stores. This Pilot Custom Urushi pen has a medium, fairly soft, giant nib, and I got it for about 2/3 price off of like a retail price and less than half price of the street price that you would see in the States. It's a giant pen and I'm having a lot of fun with it right now. HK Works has a bunch of vintage pens, and I actually saw Mr. Pilot picking up a bunch of Pilot pens there at his table. And Penland Cafe brought a bunch of Western vintage pens. Ni Kura-san, or Mr. Pilot as we call him, brought all of his Pilot pens and all of his history. He's worked for Pilot for over 40 years, and it's just a font of knowledge about Pilot. I got this sterling silver pen with a dragon on it, and it was made in the 1980s, and he said you could kind of tell because instead of having the rhodium colored nib, it has a gold colored nib. It was fun just sitting around and talking to him about the different kinds of pens and what the company did and didn't do. And this pen has a funky kind of like push filling system and then an inlaid gold, 18 karat gold nib. It's hard to get any information on these pens because there just really isn't a whole lot written about them, especially in English. And here's a detail of the dragon. This is my first year at Tips where my major purchases were vintage. Japan has many small regional pen and stationery stores, and many of them do come to Tips. It's nice because you can see their special edition or collaboration inks and pens. I'll just quickly talk about two. Bungukan Kobayashi regularly comes up with a new pen, and this year it was their strawberry mini pen. And they had sample-sized bottles of their ink in Shokido books. And the winter chicken dinner was Hachimonjiya with their kind of ombre pink and blue capless pens. I think they sold out just about on the first day. Tips is so organized, they already have the venue and the dates for next year's pen show. It's on October 28th, 29th, and 30th. And they're also reserving an overflow meeting room because it looks like Mike and Brad from the Pen Addict are trying to come out here. So that means you need to come too. And in keeping with the increased number of vintage pens at this show, I'll be giving away this Pilot kind of stainless steel pocket pen. Mr. Pilot said it was made in the 1980s and it's got the little 3,000 yen sticker on it. I'm leaving the little cellophane wrapped around it. I'm not sure if that was original or not, but just in case it is, I'm leaving it wrapped up so I don't know what it looks like on the inside. And all you have to do is go over to my Instagram, follow, and put a comment under the current picture, the one with the dragon pen, and I'll use a random comment picker before my next video to pick a winner. And the winners for the ink and stationery giveaway is at Fugelmind and at Biker Kippy. Please contact me on Instagram and I'll send that right out to you. If you got anything out of this video, I'd appreciate a like or a subscribe. Take care and see you in the next video.